Okay, so having said that, if I have to summarize, banking is witnessing its moment of disruption, driven by mobile and internet banking, which are not only inclusive but also cost minimizing. As I said, all these things are reducing cost, and that benefit is getting passed on to customers. And today, this has enabled a lot of digital only banks. There are banks which are coming up outside India. Very soon we'll have in India. There are only digital banks. There's no physical branches. You can't walk into a branch. It's an 100% digital bank. And they'll provide everything to online. The rise of banking as a service also accounts for an increase in digital services. All of us have heard of SaaS, software as a service, but today banking is also a service provider. Not just physical products that we give, we also have to understand and blend ourselves into customers' business today. We have to integrate ourselves. We should be part of the business DNA. All large manufacturing companies today, what we have done is we have created a end-to-end host-host connectivity, right? These APIs, what they do is, if there's a large manufacturing industry where there's a payment receivable, there's payable accounts payable, there are stocks which as the invoice comes they have to settle. All these are automated and integrated through API with banking. So automatically when the purchase invoice comes, it settles the payment as per the dates which customer has initiated. It automatically full funds it pays. It automatically initiates towards collection of payments. It settles within the accounts. Finally gives a summary. So banks have now gone beyond just being a financial service provider to a personalized accountant, I would say, for consumers. That's the kind of change and disruption that's happening. Okay, mobile banking along with UPI, a secure, mobile-first, interoperable, open source, instant settlement system will replace credit cards and debit cards. This is the future. I'm talking about what's going to happen. Fintech companies are emerging as an alternate to lenders like banks in the payments landscape, like what I said, technology companies which will also do finance. Move on, Rajat. So this is the changing trend in payment space. It's a little dated, but still, because I can't do my own thing, I have to pull it from the regulators and the competent authorities. But of course, the trend is only increasing. All your paper transactions are coming down. And on the right side, if you see, the paper-based transactions are flat and going down, but your digital electronic transactions are zooming up. It's got a, right up 90-degree growth almost, if not more. So that's the change which is happening, and it's emerging in a big way. Go on, Rajat. So what is also impacting the bank is obviously, while with due respects to all the public sector banks, while I'm not saying, but obviously, it depends on the individual employee behavior. So the new millennials coming into the private banks and kind of disrupting the service that is offered at banks. If you see, I've just shared some of the change in the trend between foreign banks, public sectors, and private banks. It's obviously increasing. The private banks are taking a larger share. Only reason is adapting to the current change, bringing in more technology, understanding consumer behaviors, and understanding these small alternate service providers who are coming to the industry and trying to have an arrangement with them. So thereby the market share is increasing, while still the PSU banks will have a larger share. That's purely because of a lot of government business getting it on the overall value. But all the new entities, emerging markets are all moving on to the private entities. So what is the enabling ecosystem which is bringing this change? Okay, so since 2010, if you see, Aadhaar authentication came. So a lot of things are done through Aadhaar authentication rather than physical, signatures and papers. In 2011, we had APB and AAPS. Don't worry about these acronyms. These are, Aadhaar payment bridge which came in. So thereby Aadhaar enabled payment systems have happened. So your payments can be done through Aadhaar. There are a lot of financial distribution things which even our bank has initiated. For example, we've gone into the rural markets and understood that we have made these Kirana stores, these small shops as our partners, where we have set up a mission where local consumers, if they want to have cash, if they have to send money to their wherever they are, their parents or family, they just go there, pay that cash to the Kirana store and do an Aadhaar authentication, and that money will be connected and sent to that family to whichever account they hold. And similarly, if he wants to withdraw, Same through Aadhaar, he can withdraw because in rural markets there are no banks. And this Kirana stores will run a small treasury, so his withdrawals and his deposits he'll manage, and he will have a deposit with the bank. And what happens is, obviously he'll have collections through his, and thereby he's also increasing customers otherwise to his Kirana stores who are coming to do these transactions. So next is Aadhaar KYC. One of the most important thing in banks and financial institutions is know your customer. So today, unlike papers, Aadhaar has given us an opportunity to, get upgraded. Moving on, e-signatures have come, digital lockers have come, consent architectures have come. Since 2016, more transactions are done through consent. Your OTPs and your other, modes of confirmations have taken precedence in terms of executing your transactions. Of course, coupled with UPI and the emergence of API banking, what I said, will further propel these things to the next level. One, Ranjit. So if I have to say what will be the future, all your cards, credit cards, physical cards will get replaced through digital money, which will be loaded into your phone. All your smartphones will get integrated going forward with Aadhaar and iris compliance. So in your phone only you can do your Aadhaar authentication. Like in most of the phones, we have this biometric things to unlock. Your transactions will be done through that. Going forward, there will be softwares and hardwares which will be enabled. So your transaction, you don't even have to put OTP, you can do it through Aadhaar. Obviously, you have to be very secure. And similarly, your physical POS machines, which we have today in most of the retailers, will get replaced. Already you would have seen it change to handheld devices, and it will get changed into the digital machines. And it will be run through apps and other things. One. Next. Okay, so this is the fintech lenders. Obviously, all the lending platform, as I said, is moving from the traditional way of lending to online lending. The quantum of lending is zooming up over the period, and all this will only be beneficial to the consumers because there's a substantial reduction in cost of acquiring and servicing a loan, and thereby that benefit will get passed on to the consumers finally. One reason. So what is happening? What is the future then? There'll be less dependence on brick and mortar model in terms of physical branches. So there'll be paperless, presentless onboarding of customers. There'll be interventionless credit delivery. Obviously, we'll have electronic clearing. There is no physical clearing. Exponential increase in mobile banking transactions, which we are already seeing. The emergence of digital-only banks, fintech and wallet companies, which will eliminate the need for customers to visit branches. It will be an enabler for cashless economy, which already this government is working on. The emergence of neobanks, which I said, the new generation banks, which will offer various services and products. And what I see is in future, banks, this shape and size of the banks will be very, very small. And I wouldn't, I don't know, it will be even a counter working out of some retail malls and shops. Cloud banking has come where you can do it all the things through cloud. And what I see is banking through wearables. You will have gadgets, your watches, your phones, anyway, phones are there, your other things, your spectacles will have, it will be tuned to that way that it can receive commands and thereby execute your transactions. One. And so the entities that will execute the future banking needs will be your e-wallet companies like your Paytm, Citrus Pay, Payzap, MobiKwik, Oxygen. Already they are doing large volumes of transactions and which has fragmented from banks. So this will become large entities exceeding the market caps of few existing banks, which is already seen. Your digital asset software platforms like blockchain, Ripple will change the way banks source customers. It's completely, that's going to be the next disruption happening. And as I said, API banking will change the way big corporates handle the banking. Requirements from employees, vendors, suppliers. The entire thing will be handled automated with API banking. Next. And again, as I said, unbundling of banking service will happen with many startups offering multitude of banking service to customers directly. Banks will become an aggregator of services provided by startups. As I said before, okay, banks will not do everything. There are much better technology adapted entities that will provide better experience to customers. So banks will become an aggregator of that services. And that's what an intelligent banks have to do. Fintech companies, as I said, will be a large lender capable of offering lower interest rates due to lower operational costs. Plus, they don't have the burden of the CRR, SLR, which banks have. There's nothing but a portion of money that we have to keep aside. Then digital-only banks, which I said, will operate with less than 100 employees, but be able to cater to any number of customer needs thanks to the technology. So moving on, next. So finally, what I'm saying is, many of you, as you pass out, will be wondering that, if at all you want to be in the financial world, if you want in the banking, you'll be wondering of joining these entities, if at all. But actually, when you pass out, or the next generation when they pass out, next to Ranjit, chances are that you will land up here, because banks will get fragmented into all these entities, which are partly providing service, otherwise what banks are doing, but in a much better, much technology way, much digital way, much easier, much friendly, more transparent. Not that I'm saying bank is not transparent, but when you fragment it, they can bring in the best to the consumers, the cost will be less, and thereby you will get a unique service. Choices will be more. So the opportunities will be in a much larger, more focused, more specialized way. So with this, I end that presentation. So all I'm saying is this is the evolution and the future which I foresee in the banking financial world with the technology that is emerging. And I didn't want to bore you with the traditional banking things. I thought it's important that you as future should know what is happening and where are we heading to and what is in store for all of you, both as a consumer, as a user, as well as for some of you who are looking at banking as a financial world as a career option. So I am done.
So students, you can be ready with your questions, and thank you so much for the beautiful presentation, sir. Even in this hard times, this one particular presentation and the knowledge which you have shared with us is definitely going to be a superb one for all our conditions as of now, and definitely it is going to motivate us and guide us for the next level. And I request all the students to post your questions in the chat box, and I will ask the selected questions to sir. Okay,
sure.
You can post your questions in the chat box. So there's a question from one Mr. Hari. How do you recommend keeping confidential bank information safe while working outside of the bank, sir? Maybe he's asking about work from home.
Yeah, so see, banks work in a very, very secure environment. Even if I work from home, there are firewalls. As I said, I gave a classic example. I couldn't log in Google Meet from my official laptop because, it restricts. If I have to log in, then I have to take permission. I have to go through my server, and which is approved for Google Meet, and it will filter whatever information that is going through. I can't do a file share. Okay, so banks always work on strict firewalls. So even if you work from home, your information access is only restricted within that software environment what you work, and you can't take it outside. And even our emails which we send are scanned. Okay, so there's a lot of restriction in that. And there are regulators which are also monitoring. We are subject to audits of various things, both in terms of information security audit, and apart from our basic regulatory financial audits, we're also strictly audited in terms of information security. And obviously our underlying contract as a banker is between banker customer is confidentiality. So at no way we can physically share any information, but otherwise that's the basic commitment that bankers have with the organization, that we are not supposed to share information with customers. But there are a lot of things which are available in the public domain, which anyway everybody will know.
Next question is one from Ms. Padma Priya, sir. What is the future of Bitcoin, sir? Cryptocurrency.
See, cryptocurrency, if you ask me, in India still there are a lot of restrictions, but it is inevitable. It will come in, but you need to have the systems, process, technology ready for that, to have control and monitoring on that. But my view is it will come into India very soon. As of now, it's available outside India, but it will come in India.
Yes. And next question from Mr. Kishore KS.
Yeah.
Sir, good afternoon, sir. What is your opinion on connecting all the banks to blockchain technology, and how does it work? Is it possible to connect every bank before 2030
No, already all banks are connected, right? Every
through
bank is
blockchain, sir?
connected. That's how, no. That's how the payment mechanism happens today. Through regulators, through NPCI, everything is connected. And there are secured ways today for customers to, do that. There's already a central repository which is getting created. Okay. So what happens is, as of now, if you're moving from one bank to other, again, you have to give all the information to, establish yourselves when you are onboarded. For example, it could be a basic, account getting opened in a bank or a loan taken. You have to provide all the information. But things are changing now. There's a central repository where all banks are submitting their customer credentials to a central repository. And thereby, banks, when they onboard a customer, they have to refer to that number and pull in information. You don't have to provide. So that way, all banks are getting connected in terms of information. Anyway, all banks are connected with respect to the risk. If a customer is having a loan with a bank and he's moving to another bank, anyway, those informations are getting shared through a central repository of customer credit bureau. So banks are otherwise connected, but yes, blockchain again certainly will open up a lot of things. That's again inevitable, which is very soon going to happen. As a bank, we are also work in progress. We are already gearing up towards that technology, and 200%, it's a near future. All banks will be connected through blockchain. Not only banks, every other industry entity will be connected through blockchain. Only thing is we have to make the process and the connectivity in a better way.
Yes, sir. Next is Ms. Keetana has asked, RBI has introduced this moratorium for loan as of now in this crisis. What is your view on its RBI moratorium, sir?
It is a good initiative. See, obviously, yes, tough times, COVID times, there's an impact in the economy. Most businesses, there's an impact in the economy, and most, there's a slowdown. So obviously, it has impacted everybody, and thereby most entities would have taken loans from banks. And obviously, when there's no inflow, how will they repay? And it was a right move by RBI to step in and give this moratorium. Obviously, you can't waive off loans because banks obviously, it's not banks' money. It's finally the customers' deposits which we in turn lend. So, but obviously, there's a temporary relief that's been given to all the borrowers in terms of a period which got extended as well. So, this moratorium is a very positive sign. And also coupled with that, there's a guaranteed, further lending of 10%, which has been extended to all the MSMEs and SMEs, which is again a positive move to further capitalize them to go on with their business. Because moratorium is one about repayment, but for them to further, move on and carry their business, there's also initiatives by the government in terms of giving this credit guarantee schemes.
Thank you, sir. Next one, Mr. Ramakrishna has asked a question. Sir, banks are built on robustness. So no fraudulent happenings are happening as of now. It has been very much reduced. But with regards to economic offenses, like many people who have got absconded from the country with a very bag full of money. So how do we stop them, sir?
I think you have to, I'm a too small a person to ask that. But I mean, these are very known names and very, obviously it's happening with the support of some very, very high profile people. Otherwise it can't happen. But obviously it's a challenge. Nothing, you can't find a solution for everything. As we say, and even in a normal banking, there are a lot of fraudsters. There are money getting moved from customers' account. There are credit cards being misused. How much are your technology you bring in? These fraudsters are ahead of technology. They also have the equal R&D in terms of breaking these technology which we are bringing in. So likewise, these are challenges which we have to keep working on. But what is also is, it's a learning. What we do is, there are some banks which has little gone overboard in terms of over leveraging of customers, the large institutions which you're talking about. And it's a learning, but government is also taking a tough stand. So whoever you're naming that, they're not left scot-free. These names, they are behind. There are, treaties between two countries. So government is following those norms and process to get them back into the country. But yes, it's something that we have to work on, because that will set a wrong precedence for the rest of the businessmen to even look at that as an option, which should not be allowed.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. Next question is from Mr. Mithresh. artificial intelligence is going to rule every sector in digital world, so that the
Yeah.
software developers, data science, and technology peoples will get huge opportunities in future. But as a management student, what are the opportunities I have, sir?
You have in everything. See, as you rightly said, things are moving. Abundant data is available, and I said as a consumer, I need what I need. So thereby, when I expect what the entities to provide what I need, obviously, it's humanly impossible to have our own intelligence. So obviously, there has to be some artificial intelligence that has to be put into all these data. So having said that, every segment, every sector will get impacted, disrupted, and that will be a positive disruption in terms of giving something beneficial to the end user. So obviously, if we can appreciate and logically think in terms of all these things, in every industry, those opportunity for management students to look at, and not necessarily as an employee, also as an entrepreneur. All these examples I said about startups providing these services, or some of the names, the large names, unicorns that have become like your Byju's or Paysap, these are all management students who came out, identified a problem, and thought through in terms of what is the solution that will address that problem. And to do that, what is the technology? How do we use data, and what is the intelligence that we built on? Is all thought through. So either you can be an entrepreneur in that space, or some of these startups will look for people who can come and join them with logical thinking. So either way, there's a huge opportunity for management students who can appreciate logical thinking and could address these large opportunities that exist in each of these businesses.
Thank you so much, sir. And next question is from Mr. Minu Prakash.
Yeah.
How the payments bank affects the need for traditional banking after the Google Pay and all those bankings have been coming in. So how does it affect the traditional banking, sir?
Okay, let me clarify. Google Pay and all is not payment banks. Okay, they are payment service providers.
Service.
Okay. But actually, there's a payment bank. See, in recently, RBI came with this differentiated banking license. You had these small banks like Equitas and other banks which came in with a purpose. And they also introduced some of the payment banks, but unfortunately, these payment banks, none of them launched their services except for Airtel and one or two. But they are struggling to find a viable business model, because this is a small transaction piece which they do. So for that, the revenue doesn't justify. So they're looking at, but these are banks which are work under the anchor bank, one of the existing banks. But when you ask about these payment service providers like Google, that's what I said. So what they have done is Google as a service provider has a lot of consumers. And what they have done is they've leveraged on that in terms of providing a payment opportunity for them. Okay. So they're building their client base. They want customers to use more of that. So a lot of these payment transactions which go through banks is getting diverted to them. Obviously, they will build on this. So again, it becomes a data of customer transaction which happens. So they are building a credit history or a transaction history of these customers. From there, they will build products and services which can further enhance. And obviously, they'll come and disrupt some of the existing banking services. So these are opportunities in a way for all of you if you have to look at a career opportunity. But banks have to understand that you don't have a choice. These things will happen because ultimately the regulators and government will support this, because this is making the life of consumers easy. So which means, more and more such things will come. And I think we have to, as an individual, as a consumer, we have to embrace this.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. Next question is from Ms. Sweta Balavardhan. Sir, what is your view on a hybrid cloud strategy, which has been followed by many leading banks?
Okay, as I said in the beginning, I'm a very simple guy. I don't complicate things. Okay, there's nothing called hybrid cloud. This thing. See, what we do is, as I said, whenever we upgrade and provide service, obviously it throws a challenge in terms of providing something more. And the technology as an enabler will support us, because there's an evolution on technology. And today, as we see, everything is moving on cloud, right? And when I say everything is moving on cloud, obviously banking service also will move on cloud. It's a natural progress in terms of what we offer as services. So there's nothing new in that. And every banks are already moving into that cloud space in terms of providing services.
Yes, sir. One question from Ms. Muthulakshmi. Sir, what is your prediction on stock market? how will it move up? Because it has went to a very lower level now. So how do you
I
predict
wish,
it?
if you know that, why should I work in a bank? I can as well sit and do my own trading. Okay. Unfortunately, that's something nobody can predict. See, my personal view. Okay. Stock market, while yes, it works on certain fundamentals, but it's not a real, it doesn't reflect the real economy. For example, when the economy goes in X percentage, the stock market grows at Y, which is not reality, right? It works on a lot of sentiments, a lot of markets say, a lot of news which goes around, it reacts. But of course, yes, it's a cycle. People who study that market, there's a lot of study around that. There's a lot of predictions, models on stock market, like your candlestick model and many models you have. But the point is, currently, yes, because the situation, economy is down, COVID has impacted business, and obviously it's little down now. But uh, India is a large country. Our consumption is large. Okay, we have our own higher manufacturing production capacity, and but yet we import a large. We still have a current account deficit. But having said that, these are the lean period in terms of our curves. And obviously, market will pick up. It has to pick up because nobody is going to keep quiet. Obviously, the regulators and the government is taking a lot of initiative to revive the economy. And as it revives, it will further propel the market. But yes, currently, given the situation, it's going to take little time in terms of moving up the curve. But if you ask me in terms of stock market as an opportunity to make money, at every time, be it bear or bull market, you can still make your money. You can time your stocks and accordingly you can make money. So, but in terms of stocks, the indexes, Sensex moving up, it's going to take a little time.
Yes, sir. And next question is from Mr. Ajit. Sir, lowering the interest rate, will it boost the economy during the COVID times where most of the people are not allowed to spend their money? So, will it boost the economy?
Lowering the interest rate is on the lending side or on the deposit side?
Lending side,
What is
sir.
asked? Lending side, okay. Obviously, yes, because see, today what is happening? As I said, there's a slowdown. And then slowdown, obviously, your recovery will be less in terms of the business entities. Your collections will be less because he's dependent on other guy who's got his own business. And obviously, for him to up his capacity production, he has to have his working capital, which obviously he'll borrow from banks. And there, if the lending rates are lesser, obviously it's going to help him because at this point in time you can't borrow at a higher rate, and thereby any amount of reduction in lending rates will certainly help, which the regulators are already given instruction to banks in terms of offering certain benefits to the banks to give it to the consumers. So obviously reduction in lending rates is certainly going to help.
Yes, sir. Sir, Rahul has asked a question. Sir, what is the future of global trade finance between the countries?
Very, what do you say? Very little unpredictable. And so today, predicted trade wars and all has been spoken, but still countries like China will still emerge as a force. But again, still the global trade is pegged basis the US dollars. So obviously, Americans will have, but given whatever I said in terms of the future for the next decade and the change in demography and a lot of things happen in India, India will have a bigger say in terms of these things that's going to happen in the future.
Yes, sir. A question from Ms. Sandana Lakshmi of 2020 batch. Sir, how do you see this core banking into the next level? What could be the next level of core banking?
See, core banking is nothing but connecting, your systems and banking. That's what, as I said, it'll move on to the cloud, right? So obviously, at any point in time, anywhere, core banking is just a system connectivity. The next level is obviously it'll be on the cloud and you can access anywhere, anytime and do transaction. And it'll be, as somebody was asked before, it'll be between banks available anytime. You can pull and push money. And, it'll become more and more convenient for you to access across your banking needs through your system at your will.
Yes, sir. Next question is from Ms. Sanpriya. Sir, this word deglobalization is on trend right now. Will this deglobalization will engage or produce more number of startups in India? And how far will the financial connectivity help these new brands emerging in India?
Deglobalization, yes, already government is initiating a lot of things to, make in India, skill India types. Obviously, we have both in terms of capability, both intellectual and the resource as a country, we have enough. Okay. But I think, as I said, the generation which is coming should look at all these things and should be able to, get a lot of stuff done out of our country. And, our prime minister has already said in many forums to, get people back to India and look at things to be done in India. Only challenge is we have to create such, platforms and more easier ways of setting up things. I think some of the states have already started, like single window clearances and things like that. For example, in Telangana, Andhra, and stuff like Gujarat, which has even set up a gift city where you can a small area which is dedicated as an offshore setup. So all these things will obviously going forward will help. And what was the second question? Financial.
How does it improvise or how does it supports the new startups, sir?
Obviously, all these things, if it's done, certain things could be done on their own. Certain things it needs obviously service providers, and that will be an opportunity for startups. See, as these things happening, that's what I said. The startup entrepreneurs should look around for opportunities or what is going to emerge in India, and thereby should look at picking up some of them in terms of as an opportunity to provide service.
Yes, sir. Next question is from Venkat. Sir, in this pandemic, what is your suggestion? Investing in equity, gold, or in commodity?
Okay. See, gold is a interesting asset class. Never it has depreciated. Okay. And that's the strength of a country. Sovereign is our strength of a country. So gold is obviously also a commodity which you have to invest. Equity, it depends on your appetite, how you look at it. Markets are low, yes. Obviously, it will turn around. So good to invest. Commodity, you have to be very careful, selective, because it depends on the demand, what we create, and and certain things, obviously there are restrictions which comes in. So commodities depends on various factors. So I would say in the order of priority, it could be gold always, equity, and then commodity.
Yes, sir. So next question is from Mr. Gokul. Sir, what is your view on minimizing the CRR during the COVID situation?
CRR is most for the banks. So I don't know why that person is asking that, but yes, India is the only country have this CRR as a concept. And I still remember there was one ex-governor of RBI who even commented that, why should we even have CRR? But, if you look at it, such, especially on the contrary, India is the only country which has a strong, stable central bank, which is RBI. Because in India, you never had a bank getting shut or bank getting bankrupt or flunking. We hear that in most other countries. There's no bank which is shut. Because RBI has a strict monitoring, early warning signals. So thereby they get them moved, put a lot of restrictions and get them merged with some other bank. So end of the day, no consumers get affected on a long run. There could be temporary disturbance when the bank is going through tough times, but in a long run, consumers are protected. So having said that, with so much of monitoring in terms of lending by all the banks at a sector level, there are caps at sector level. As a bank, you can't go beyond certain lending in certain sectors. And based on certain monitoring, even RBI puts restriction in certain lendings of some banks, which we have read that. So having said that, actually, personally, if you ask my view, there's no relevance of CRR because that will only also contributes towards the borrowing rates, the lending rates of the bank. So that can ease out some of the lending rates of the bank. So I am also for the fact that CRR can be either minimized or reduced. CRR and the SLR part, which is together contributes almost 25-26%.
The last few questions, sir. The next question is from Ms. Abhinaya. Sir, as an MBA student, do I need to undergo any other additional courses or anything towards? I'm very passionate about banking, but what should I undergo? Any other additional courses or something? What do you suggest, sir?
After MBA?
Yes, sir.
No, so today, as I said, banking is completely changing. Okay, it's no more I would say, a traditional financial skill job, right? I never studied finance or accountancy. I'm a science graduate, as Kirtana introduced me. It's today what is happening is it's more of relationship management, understanding business, logically offering solutions, which is finally a financial product. Okay, thanks to technology, all those manual things which a bank used to do is gone. It's all automated. Again, technology which has done it. But at the same time, yes, you need to have the analytical skills. You need to understand the financial structuring, okay, which is very important. Which most banks, as you work, will train you and make you understand that. But there are also some specialized courses organized by banks themselves. For example, we do that. There are some banks like ICICI and other banks does that, where they hire some of these students, which goes through a process of selection, filtering, and then put them on a training, of course, with a cost, with a stipend, and then post that completion of that, get absorbed into the roles of the bank. So you can explore some of that, which offline, if I can share with Ranjit.
Yes, sir. So Ajit has asked a question, sir, again. Sir, recently, exclusively yesterday, S Bank has recovered 95% from the FPO. That is almost 14,500 crores they've got from the FPO yesterday, and 95% they've got sold. So how do you see this S Bank? Will it get recovered, or how it is, sir? What is the future of S Bank?
No, that's a fundraising which they did. Okay. So obviously, see, as I said, no banks in India will fail, right? When S Bank went through the tough time, also RBI rightly intervened and brought in banks like SBI to completely take control. And immediately everybody pumped in money in this FPO. I mean, it's in public domain, so I can say that even our bank put in 100 crores on that. Okay, so it's an opportunity. Every banking entity has its own opportunity in India. No banks will fail because it's strongly monitored and controlled. So, yes, there were certain things which went wrong, and obviously those things are put in the past, and this bank will obviously get moving on in the positive direction.
So the last question, sir, and what do you suggest, sir? Globalization or a deglobalization?
My personal view, I would say deglobalization, because as I said before, a lot of resources in India, capability with the younger generation moving in. I think we can be the strong commanding force in the world.
Yes, sir. I guess we're all done with all the maximum questions. Whatever the people have asked, maximum we have covered up.
I hope I could address them
very well,
right
sir. Very
way.
well. Yes,
if
sir.
Anybody has any questions later, also you can send it across to me. I'll be happy to do that.
Definitely, sir. Definitely. We'll share your email address, and we'll collectively send all these questions to you, sir. Absolutely. And how was the session, sir? What was the questions from our students?
Wonderful, yeah, wonderful. See, as I said, it is always, when you meet students, when you address them, when you try to answer their questions, it's always thought-provoking and learning. As I said in the beginning, I looked at it as an opportunity to, update myself and also understand what this generation looks at, because I should be personally prepared for the future. And, it's very interesting. And as usual, Ranjit, I remember being a spectator in one of the earlier sessions of my friend Ravi Varman. So the way you put across things and ask questions are very interesting, well conducted. Once again, I would like to thank my friend Mr. Kadir and Dr. Parkvi for the opportunity given to me. And obviously, would love to physically come and meet some of you whenever it opens up and we are allowed to do that. Great time. Thanks for the opportunity. Yes, and I'm very happy.
Yes, sir. Really, it's our very, very pleasure, sir, because even in your Saturdays, you have come all the way, even it is digital also, but still you have shared so much of data and so much of knowledge to us. And you have patiently answered all the questions. I know how these people have been asking questions, because the day when we say that you are going to talk on this topic, the students are very much, they've got, to be frank, they have got aggressive and they have become so enthused, and they started preparing on many questions. Left and right, they have been asking me questions. Even I've skipped many questions from the investment banking side and all those things. So they were asking so much of questions, and most probably many top financial institutions are hiring in our college. So basically, these students have got popped up for finance. So they've got so many questions, and even I never heard about CRR and all, and people have been so much knowledgeable, and they are passionate about finance. That's why they've thrown very nice questions, and you also had a beautiful answers for all the questions, and I hope every student have got their answers pleasurably. And thank you so much for answering, sir.
My pleasure. As I said, please don't underestimate students. They're absolutely, different, and the future is in their hands, and I'm sure we are all safe with them, coming to take over all the new initiatives that's going to happen for the
Yes,
future.
sir. Yes, so the future leaders are definitely here, and they're going to start at this point. And so I would like to call Mr. Satya to give away the vote of thanks, sir.
Sure.
Mr. Satya from
Because of the
second year.
name you called him, or?
No, his name is also Satya, sir. No, sir.
That's what I said. He said because he had a name Satya, you called him to thank.
No, sir. No, sir.
Our beloved students, respected sir, and our honorable chief guest, it is an honor and privilege to have been asked to propose the vote of thanks. I, on behalf of ISSM Business School and the entire supporting crew, would like to thank everyone for joining us today and making the start a great beginning. I thank our chief guest, Mr. Satya Ranayan Ganesh, to share his valuable time, knowledge, and experience with our students. Thank you for being a part of ISSM, sir. It is an honor and a great pleasure to have with you us. I would like to take this opportunity to thank our chairman, sir, Mr. Kadir Ganapathiappan, our director, ma'am, Dr. Parkavi, and our director, sir, Mr. Rahul Ramachandran, for giving me this opportunity. I thank Mr. Ranjit for being our backbone and the key supporter for every success of our life, MBA lives. Last but not the least, I thank the students of ISSM family for making this webinar session a great success. Thank you all.
Thank you so much, Satya. Thank you so much for the vote of thanks. Thank you so much once again, sir, on behalf of our students, our management, and the people who are all gathered here. And thank you so much for your knowledge, sir. As if you said, definitely we will like to have you in our campus one day very shortly. And
Sure.
we are going to discuss a lot about banking more, sir, and we will do a workshop also with you. We are very grateful to have you, sir. Thank you. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Bye all. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.